Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Bethany Poole, Editor-in-Chief of Think with Google, and today I'm joined by Marie Gulin-Merle, Chief Marketing Officer at Calvin Klein and Chief Digital Officer at PVH. Thank you for joining us today, Marie.
Thank you, Bethany. I'm thrilled to be here.
So later today, you're speaking on one of our panels at Google Marketing Live about the end of digital marketing and why it's time to shift our mindset. You believe we're now in an era where digital marketing is just marketing.
I do.
I can't wait to dig a little bit more into that, but let's start out by telling the audience a little bit about your two roles at Calvin Klein and PVH and what you're focused on.
Yes, so I'm at Calvin, I'm the global CMO, so I'm in charge of brand marketing, product marketing, also consumer insights, data, retail, store design, visual merchandising. I'm trying not to forget anything in case my team is listening, comms, CSR. And in addition, I've been appointed to Chief Digital Officer for PVH, so I oversee the full digital and data transformation for the company.
Very exciting. Congratulations on your both roles.
Thank you.
We're incredibly excited to have you here with us. You're talking about, on this panel, about the end of digital marketing. Why is it so important for the industry leaders to shift their mindset around digital marketing?
Because I think it's misleading or very duplicative to talk about traditional marketing and digital marketing. If you think about it, consumers really don't act that way. So you research online, you buy offline, you have your mobile with you throughout the journey. So the consumption of videos, the search behavior, all of this is present throughout the journey. I also think it creates silos within companies instead of infusing tech and digital and data at the core of everything we do.
So you pull everything together. Let's see, I have actually a question already from the audience, if you don't mind. Adamola asks, as you talk about this new mindset shift, who should be championing it, the CEO or the marketer?
That's a great question from Adamola. I think both CEOs and CMOs should champion it, and then I'm going to add some nuances. I think the CEO should signal the entire organization that the world has changed. So it comes from the top, and there is this new behavior already infused from the top. Then CMOs are driving the part that is consumer related, but they have to partner with CFOs, for instance, on new norms, new financial norms, on how you measure performance in today's world. The CMOs have to partner with CHROs, the heads of HR, on identifying talent gaps, for instance, upskilling, reskilling of the teams. And obviously, as I always say, the CIO is the best friend, the new best friend of any CMO.
It's really a full company transformation. It's
Absolutely.
Not just one vertical or one function. You were talking a little bit before about the need for this because the consumer journey has changed so much. Consumers are getting more and more of their information online, and we've been talking about this a lot on Think with Google about how this change has happened. You're sitting there right in the forefront. How have you seen the consumer journey change, and how has that impacted how you go to market?
So I've seen 3 traction points, and I think there is one stat that everybody should keep in mind. So the 3 traction points that I've seen over the past 5 years, I would say, and it has stayed very consistent. That's kind of a good news with all the changes that we're going through. One, the discovery phase, the research phase, or what marketing nerds called ROPO, research online, purchase offline. This has become probably in some instances, up to 50% of the consumer behavior pre-purchase. And then the second traction point that I've seen that is very new and not going anywhere is the peer-to-peer advocacy driver. The fact that you're going to trust brands much better when it comes from other consumers. or influencers or advocates. And then the third thing is that consumers want to buy everywhere and anywhere, wherever, whenever. And overall, I think the stat that I keep reminding the C-suite and my team is that 50% of sales are now digitally influenced. And this is across the board. This is across industries.
That is a massive change, though. It's very, in the world that everything is changing, having it be stable for the last 5 years is a wonderful thing. How should marketers be approaching this change in consumer behavior? For example, one of our audience members, Hillary, wants to know how you keep customers engaged once they've started the online journey onto your website.
So Hillary, we're doing 4 things. We're doing 4 use cases, and again, this is a piece of stability in a world of change. The first one is that we keep acquiring, so we focus a lot of efforts on acquiring new consumers. Then we focus on the second purchase. You buy once, and you're getting the consumer to buy a second time. The third use case that we're focusing on is cross-selling or deep selling, so you go deeper into loyalty. And then the fourth use case is about preventing churn and retention. So the job is really to marry and combine the four use cases all the time. I would say to do that, you need tech. And you also need what I call another acronym. I'm sorry for the audience.
No, I like the acronyms.
You also need DCO, digital content optimization. So this constant optimization, differentiation of content, so you know what works best.
We talked a little bit about this yesterday, the digital content optimization. So are you constantly creating new content? How are you thinking about that?
I think it's 2 types of flows. One is the hero content, and we can talk more about that. It's not going anywhere. It's still how consumers connect to the bigger brand values. And then you have this always-on flow of content. I call it high volume, high velocity of content. High volume, high velocity, and high degree of personalization and differentiation.
So that actually is a perfect segue into my next question, which is, with so many consumer touch points, you have this wealth of information that can be used for ads personalization. Can you talk about the importance of being relevant in today's marketing climate with so much competition for people's attention, and how you use ads personalization to be relevant in the moment?
So this is actually a gap in measurement. I believe we measure either brand lift or sales lift. We rarely measure what I call the return on relevance. And it's a combination of engagement, past behaviors, obviously conversion, but we have to be able to measure if we actually provided the right content at the right time to the right consumer. So I call it our return on relevance.
So that's a metric that you use.
It's a combination of metric, and this is the sort of North Star that I always keep in mind in everything we do.
It's fascinating. On that note, we have another question from the audience. Mike asks, there's a lot of talk about machine learning and big data, but how can marketers actually use these tools in their day-to-day?
So marketers remain very much human, flesh and blood with a lot of intuition. I think tech helps on, I would say, level 1, automation, repetition of what works. Level 2, identification of patterns of what works, what doesn't work. And then you need human beings to make sense of the data. Great marketers will be the one who really know how to embrace tech the best. And it's not an either or. Again, it's an and relationship. I would also say that creative teams cannot be afraid of tech, and that intuition, I call it intuition, is augmented by data and insights and technology.
Augmented intuition. Well, it is true that the machine learning can pull up the data, but the actual interpretation and figuring out what are true insights that are based on human behavior is only something that a human can do.
And what ideas are going to be. Because
Exactly.
at the end of the day, marketing is about ideas.
While we're on the topic of ads personalization, we know that data privacy is at top of mind for a lot of people. Google is committed to ensuring that our users understand our commitment to responsible data use. We talked a little bit about this last week at I/O. What are your thoughts on user trust?
I think companies and brands need to commit. On the Calvin side, there are 3 strong commitments we want to make to our consumers. One is transparency. We want to be transparent on how we use data. Mm-hmm. The second one is security. We want to apply the highest standards when it comes to keeping data safe. And the third piece, because if things don't happen the way it should, brands and companies need to be highly accountable. So the third principle is to be accountable.
That's wonderful. We have so many questions coming in from the audience. Thank you everyone. I'm going to go with the first one from Lara. Do you have a marketing trick or life hack that you're particularly proud of?
I think my first mentor at work, something like 20 years ago. Yes, I started to work in the 20th century. So my mentor taught me that mantra that I always keep in mind every day. Come to work like it's your first day. Your first day at work. So don't ever get comfortable. Don't ever think that you know everything. The more you grow, the more you have to listen to new generations. And the more you have to really practice the muscles of curiosity and humility. So every day is my first day, and I'm happy to start my first day with you, Bethany.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, this is like
the audience here.
The Carol Dweck growth mindset. You've embraced it from the very beginning. For people who are just tuning in, we are here with Marie Gulin-Merle, who's the CMO of Calvin Klein and the Chief Digital Officer of PVH. And we're answering a few of your questions because we've gotten through most of mine. We have another question from Brian. Consumers seem to be less brand loyal. Digital native brands seem to focus on their products rather than selling their brand. Has Calvin Klein shifted their focus from brand to products as well?
It's another yes and answer. So another mantra that I learned when I started my career in marketing is that consumers connect to a brand, but at the end of the day, they buy a product. So you actually need to do both jobs. If you go to YouTube, for instance, today on the Calvin Klein channel, you're going to see the latest campaign. It's a lot of emotional engagement, but also a lot of product focus on what's new and why it's new and why it matters.
And YouTube's such a great channel for creating both of those connections. We have a question from Ahmed. Do you think clothing brands are adapting to the changes of digital marketing innovations that we see every day?
I think like every brand, I don't think there is any industry exception. I think every industry is going through massive change, and it's not an industry point of view. By the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's a consumer point of view. So if consumers change, brands have to adapt. So we're not different, I would say. I think that the way people choose, the way people are going to prefer a brand, the way you create brand love, the way you develop brand building has changed dramatically over the past 5-10 years. So there is no exception.
It's I think it's one of the most interesting things about being a marketer is that you have to adapt to the changing consumer behavior. And you talked a little bit about the consumer journey. And since it's always changing and it's changing much more quickly, you have to be on your toes, and it kind of feeds that constant curiosity.
And it keeps it exciting.
Interesting. You're constantly learning. We have a question from Leo. Have there been any campaigns from other brands' competitors that you had admired recently?
Oh yes, so many. First of all, I'm always looking not only at new campaigns, what's happening on the, with the other brands, but also what consumers are doing. Like I do a lot of UGC research, so I'm always impressed by what consumers are saying about brands and what brands do. If I had to quote one, I think the Crazy campaign with Serena Williams during the Super Bowl night was fantastic.
It's a great ad campaign. Question from Prithvi. How do you see qualitative techniques such as storytelling and design thinking affecting marketing in the next 2 years?
I think it's already there. The pace for developing a story is no longer the same. I would say legacy brands used to take probably a few months to develop a few images, and we now have to come up with stories and narratives on a daily basis. So the lead time has forced design thinking and this test and learn mentality to come to the marketing workplace. So we have to obviously know what the brand stands for, what the values are, but then be able to create and optimize content every day on the fly.
You really have to. You're just telling more stories. You're not telling less wonderful stories. You're just having to tell them on a constant basis, and so you really have to know where your brand taps in and how you bring it to life.
Based on the same DNA, with more volume and more stories.
Much more challenging.
And fun.
We have a question from Kylie. In order to achieve the digital maturity you are after, what types of partners do you need to work with, and how many are too many?
I keep talking about an ecosystem of partners. So it used to be the client and then the agency, and today it's an ecosystem of partners. Should they be creators? Should they be the Googles of this world, the big tech partners we have? I would say agencies, creative minds, obviously, but also internally. And I was talking about IT. I have a brand tech person on my team who's the conduit between IT and the marketing team, and I think that's fundamental. So it's an internal ecosystem combined with an external ecosystem of partners.
I think that's one of the most interesting things about what you've done internally is just how you've brought all your teams together into one team with all sorts of different specialties and experience that are all working together on common metrics and common goals. We have last question. Oh, actually we have two more, sorry. Question from Michael. How do customer data platforms play in?
Oh, the famous CDPs. I think CDPs are going to be central to what we do, not because it's the new buzzword, but because we have so many data points that you need a central, what I call the center of truth. Mm-hmm. So you need that central place to look at your consumer from a 360 degree standpoint. So yes, it's going to play a big role.
Well, and we go back to the consumer journey keeps changing, or not keeps changing, but consumer behavior keeps evolving, so it becomes even more important that you're getting real-time information there. Okay, so we have our last question from Mario. You've moved impressively fast in transforming your marketing organization. What guidance would you offer brands and partners to help enable agility and speed when managing change, technology, and marketing decisions? And I can't think of a better question to end on.
Thank you. I don't think I move fast enough. My team would hate me saying that. I would say two things. I keep using that quote with my team. If you ever want to go somewhere, start walking. So most of the time what I do is that I keep designing what the moonshot is going to look like. And at the same time, I do 3 month, I design the 3 month wins, the 6 months achievements, and the 12-month achievements. So there needs to be a little bit of both. What the promised land is going to be like, and what tomorrow is going to be like. And this is what exponential organizations are doing, I think.
both setting the vision for the short term and the long term.
And doing it at the same time. Another good metaphor is, and I use it with my team a lot, is you're on a plane, building the plane while it's up in the air. I find it exciting. And I'm here to make sure that my team is not too dizzy or overwhelmed by this plane feeling.
Putting it all together as you are soaring over the world. That's wonderful. Well, Marie, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you, and I know you have great insights that you'll be sharing at Google Marketing Live later today.
I will.
Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Please follow us on Think with Google on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.